Okay. Nama Om Vishnu Vadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivasisha Shunya Vahari Pashtatari Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
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 Hare,
Hare
Hare Ram,
Ram
Hare Ram,
Ram
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 Ram,
Hare Hare.
Hare.
Okay, so just letting a couple of devotees in. Anyone would like to pick up the reading? Begin with.
I can do it.
Great, fantastic. Go ahead. Just a translation. Yeah.
Okay.
The
O
commentary.
original personality, these bees must all be great sages and most elevated devotees of yours, for they are worshipping you by following you along the path and chanting your glories, which are themselves a holy place for the entire world. Though you have disguised yourself within this forest, O sinless one, they refuse to abandon you, their worshipable Lord. Commentary. Better than the non-moving creatures are those who can move, beginning with the insects, bugs, and worms. Parikshit Maharaj now recounts Lord Krishna's praise of the bees who follow his brother Balaram wherever he goes. Bhagavatam 10:15-6. As mentioned before, Krishna is speaking to Balaram, but whatever he says about Balaram applies in fact to himself. The bees therefore never stop chanting Krishna's glories, which like holy pilgrimage sites that bestow spiritual upliftment in all living beings. Krishna's glories, like a universally magnanimous spiritual master, can deliver any person, whether fit to be saved or not. Those glories bestow upon everyone who comes in contact with them divine knowledge of the gentleness of the pure devotional service. The bees that follow Krishna are great sages, but not sages like the self satisfied impersonalist. Rather, they are Krishna's devotees. Bhavadiya, and of his devotees, they are among the most elevated, Mukhya, because although Krishna hides himself in the forest, they never stop following him. He is their all in all, the Lord of their life. To join him in the forest, they disguise themselves as bees and thus take the opportunity to worship him always with their songs. Here, Lord Krishna calls Balram Adi Purush, the original supreme person. This means that the bees who are always with the Lord are among the Adi Sevakas, the Lord's original eternal servants. They always worship him suitably according to the various pastimes he performs. Sri Krishna, who calls Balram Anag, means sinless, free from all faults, neglectful of all offenses against him, and granting salvation from all miseries. Because the Lord is Anagha in these ways, the bees can never abandon him. They worship him in any circumstances, fearless or reactions for their offenses, and confident that devotional service will protect them from all distress. In truth, the bees of Vrindavan are better than other stages because the bees never stop singing the glories of Krishna, whereas other stages sometimes fall silent, absorbed in ecstatic trance. Those bees are like the great Vaishnava Munis who never stop seeking Krishna even though he is hidden in the forest of the Vedas. Though his pastimes are difficult to understand and his service is difficult to achieve, the determined Vaishnavas never abandon him. They strive to locate his glories even on the paths of karma and jnana. They always sing those glories and promote them as the most serviceable spiritual asset. And so they realize Krishna directly as the
The indwelling.
dwelling,
Indwelling.
undwelling super soul of all
Indwelling, yeah.
jivas, their worshipable Supreme Lord. As Vaishnav sages surrender to Krishna, giving up everything to serve him in pure love, so do the bees in Vrindavan. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone aspiring to be a bee in Vrindavan? There you go.
Any,
Anything.
anything
Yeah.
in Vrindavan.
Yes. Well, actually, at least as we advance in spiritual life, then our desire does get more specific, or it should be in the advanced stages of Krishna consciousness, at least according to the writings of His Holiness Srila Shivaram Swami Maharaj. He mentioned it. It does become very specific. But anyway, the bees, they're in quite a wonderful situation. They can actually follow Krishna, and there's no restrictions. Yeah, the gopis can't follow Krishna. There is restrictions. And the cowherd boys, I guess they're with Krishna during the afternoon. I guess then they can go home with Krishna. I guess the bees, anyway, the bees might be restricted from entering their houses. But anyway, it seems like they're great sages who have chosen to take on those forms, it seems. So I'm not going to say what the rasa, the bees will be in. It's definitely not Madhurya.
No.
That'd be difficult. Yeah, it's definitely Vatsalya. There's formed some sense of protection of Krishna. I don't think so. Friendship. I think it's more neutrality. Yeah, like the trees, the plants. They're in this mood of, I guess,
Shantras.
yeah, Shantaras. That's it. Yeah, thank you. Shantaras. I know the cows, they have a sense of Vatsalya, a sense of being Krishna's protector and nourisher through their milk. So they have this sense of Vatsalya. But the bees, yeah, Shantaras. Although this is not the Shantaras of the yogi, this is Vrindavan. So they will be engaged in service, and their service is, as we heard, it's simply to glorify Krishna. And that's what they do constantly. Uh, it said it said that they never stop. Like some sages, they will stop their meditation, but the bees are always buzzing and glorifying Krishna. And they're also attracted to the they're attracted to Krishna. Yeah, they're attracted to the scent of Krishna, which manifests in all the flowers and foliage of Vrindavan. Then that reminds them of Krishna. So all the beautiful scents that are there, that are the bouquet of the flowers in Vrindavan, they're actually coming from Krishna. So Krishna is the origin of all those scents that the bees are attracted to. I think if we remember, it's mentioned in the Avena Gita, if I remember correctly, that when Krishna changes his clothes, when those clothes, they're in association of Krishna's body, they take on the scent of his body. Then when those clothes touch the earth, then the earth takes that scent and then manifests that scent in the shape of flowers, etc. So the origin of all sweetness of smell is in Krishna himself. So the bees, there's a wonderful story which I can't recall the details now, where one bee is searching for the origin of the scent in in Vraj, and he comes to Radha and Krishna, and he disturbs Radha by buzzing around her face. And there's a wonderful pastime that unfolds with Madhu Mangal. Some of you might remember that pastime.
Prem Sarovar.
Yeah, Prema Sarova. They're both crying, and Radharani exhibits separation from Krishna, although Krishna is right there by her side. Because Madhu Mangal says, Madhu Sudan has gone. So Madhu Sudan is another name for a bee. Anyway, like that. Now we're going to hear some more now about the cranes and swans and birds. Okay, any comments or questions? Let's have a look at this. Okay, relatively short. Okay, who would like to get the wonderful opportunity to read the pastimes of Krishna?
I can read if nobody else
Shall I
is.
go for it, as they say? Hare Krishna.
114.
114. Yeah.
The charming flute song steals away the minds of cranes, swans, and other lake-dwelling birds. Indeed, they approach Krishna, close their eyes, and, maintaining strict silence, worship him by fixing their consciousness upon him in deep meditation. Commentary. This is another verse sung by the gopis who were trying to console one another during the daytime when Krishna was absent. The birds of Vraja are superior to the bugs and insects, but even among the birds there are different levels of Krishna consciousness. The waterfowl are a little less fortunate than the others because they have less opportunity to be close to Krishna. The waterfowl described in this verse, Bhagavatam 10:35-11, live in a faraway lake filled with clean water, clusters of lotuses, and various other attractions. Innumerable cranes, swans, and other birds forever sport in that lake. But when they hear the beautiful song of Krishna's flute, their minds are captivated. First, they become bewildered and fly about madly in all directions. Then they return to the lake and settle down to engage in serious worship of Lord Hari. To fix their attention exclusively on him, they restrain their minds, bodies, and speech. They subdue their minds, close their eyes, and resort to complete silence, bringing not only mind, sight, and speech, but all their senses under the strict control, or understanding the word upasita to mean they approached rather than they worshipped. The birds leave the lake to come near Krishna and sit by his side. Being close to Krishna gives them the highest pleasure, as shown by the way they become peaceful, closing their eyes and staying silent. The word hanta in this verse indicates joy and surprise, but it can also be taken to express disappointment. And accordingly, the whole statement of the verse can be understood in a different way. The birds approached Krishna and apparently calmed down, but were their minds actually peaceful? Not at all. Taking the liberty to add the negative prefix ah to the word milita and Dhritamona, we can read Te Yatta Chita Ant Amilita Drisho Dritsman Maona. The birds could not control their minds. Ayata Chitta could not close their eyes. Amilita Drisha, and could not be silent. Drita Mona. Their meditation on Krishna caused such aesthetic mental transformation that they couldn't possibly keep their minds calm. They were in such anxiety from being unable to see Krishna that they couldn't close their eyes, which even lost the natural ability to blink. And they took to such loud sankirtan of Krishna's name that any chance of sobriety was out of question. or understanding the bird's condition in another way, as a result of worshipping Krishna by meditation on him, they attain the ecstatic of murcha, loss of consciousness. Their minds dissolving into oblivion, they simply closed their eyes and fell silent. In other words, the gopi speaking implies, though these birds are members of a different species of life, though they live in the sky, though they are males, and though they live in a distant lake, where they are busy enjoying in various ways, the songs of Krishna's flute has forcibly dragged them into Krishna's association, concentrating their minds on Krishna. They awakened in the concentrating their minds on Krishna has awakened in the bird a transcendental prema that has destroyed their natural peace and thoughtfulness, disturbed their consciousness with all sorts of agitation, and rendered them completely bewildered. What can be said then of the constant state of the gopis, who have no other purpose in life than to serve Krishna? They too must be suffering, but much more severely.
Okay, thank you. So, very powerful effect of Krishna's flute playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Seems like the waterfowl, they're unable to get the close association of Krishna, whereas the birds have better opportunity. And sometimes birds, well, quite often birds are quite erratic, isn't it? When they're in a tree, and sometimes especially when a group of birds get together, even in this material plane, they can cause quite a racket. Let alone think of when they hear the flute of Krishna, then they go into great ecstasy. So Sanatana Goswami, again, he's given different meanings here based on the Sanskrit. So he's given 3 different understandings of this, of the effect that the flute playing has on the birds. So one is that they become completely disturbed when they first hear it, and they don't know what to do. They don't know which direction to fly in. But eventually they settle down and become like great sages and meditating upon that sound vibration. Yeah. Same as how we should meditate upon the holy name. Yeah. So that's at the top here. Sight, but all their senses under strict control. Yeah. They resort to complete soul silence. So mona. So dritta mona. So Sanat Goswami speaks about that. Dritta mona, complete concentration, jhana. Or you could say samadhi. Yeah. Then he also hanta, joy and surprise. He translated also could mean disappointment. So why does he say that again? Are their minds peaceful? Not at all. Their minds are not peaceful. So another way of interpreting the Sanskrit, that they're not peaceful. They become completely, the birds could not control their minds. They could not close their eyes. They could not be silent. That's ecstatic mental transformations. They can't keep their minds calm because of the sound of Krishna's flute. Then a third way, let's look at this. Murcha, loss of consciousness. So the mind's dissolving into oblivion. So what exactly that means? It means they're unable to use their minds to function. I mean, the sound of Krishna's flute has kind of stunned them. So they simply close their eyes. Okay. And then, then at the end, Sanat Goswami then says what to speak then of the effect. If this is the effect that the flute playing is having on the birds and waterfowl, what to speak of the effect of the gopis. Okay. Should we
So
go
the
on?
gopis would be feeling the same, all these
Yeah,
symptoms.
it's the same, but as was mentioned, um, there's different levels of love or different levels. Yeah, there's different levels of different levels of advancement. They're all siddha, they're all perfect, but they're different levels of love as we can understand. Because Radharani has the most love, and the gopis have the most intense love for Krishna. So they're hearing the flute's going to be more severe, as we read in Venu Gita, where they actually exhibit what's called unmada, symptoms of madness. Yeah. So yeah, just like it seems like here, the birds are a little bit more advanced than the waterfowl. And the waterfowl a bit more advanced than the trees. Advanced, I don't say white word again because they're all perfect, but their level of intensity of love, let's put it like that.
Mm.
So there's different gradations. So that's why Sanat Goswami is saying at the end, what can be said then of the constant state of the gopis, who have no purpose in life than to serve Krishna? They must too be suffering, but much more severely. Yeah, so there's gradations of love in the spiritual world, and that satisfies Krishna in many different ways. Yeah. Yeah. So any other comments on this? Anyone want to highlight anything? We can go on to 115. Perhaps let's have a look. I can have a read of this. Text 115. On mothers. So yeah, remember Parikshit Maharaj is speaking to Uttara, seems. So
Mhm.
he says, oh mother, in this forest all the birds have risen onto the beautiful branches of the trees to see Krishna. With closed eyes, they are simply listening in silence to the sweet vibrations of his flute, and they are not attracted by any other sound. Surely these birds are on the same level as great sages. All right, so it seems like this is from Venu Gita, actually. Chapter 21 is the Venu Gita. Yeah, so these are the gopis seeing ecstatic love in the birds and all, yeah, in the deer, the trees, and the clouds. So, commentary. Another gopi, enchanted by hearing Krishna's flute, sings this verse, Bhagavatam 10:21-14, to Mother Yasoda or else to a girlfriend. Here, even more fortunate birds are glorified, those who live in the same trees that provide shade for Krishna as he wanders about the Vrindavan forest. All the birds in Vrindavan should be recognized as great sages, or as indicated by the word praha, taken to mean many. Sages are not so numerous in the Raja, but there are many birds. These birds are able to hear the mellow song of Krishna's flute, which Krishna plays for the enjoyment of the cows and the cowherd boys and girls of Sri Vrindavan. When Krishna is far away, the birds may not hear the sound distinctly, but still its effect on them is vivid. That sound bestows upon them the vision of Krishna, Krishnasya Ikshitam. So remember, everything about Krishna is absolute. So his holy name is absolute. Descriptions of his qualities is absolute. He is present in those descriptions. He is fully present in the holy name. So obviously he's fully present in the sound of the flute. So immediately it gives them a vision of Krishna. Krishnasya Ikshitam. And by bringing them to the tops of the trees, it also becomes the means by which Krishna sees them. Krishnena Ikshitam. So Ikshitam must mean see. So Krishnena Ikshitam. The flute song is also Krishnekshitam, seen by Krishna, in the sense that only Krishna can conceive of such beautiful music. It is produced from Krishna, Krishnasya Oditam. Yeah, I guess, let me just finish this sentence. And this suggests also that the sound of the flute creates an opportunity for the birds to perceive Krishna by hearing. Hearing the sound is another way for them to see Krishna, who's not easily visible to them through the abundant foliage. Okay, so the sound of Krishna's flute goes everywhere. So the forest is thick with foliage, so the birds cannot always get a direct vision of Krishna when they hear the flute, but just by hearing it, they actually see him. Yeah. So it's difficult to us to conceive, but can we try for a minute to try and appreciate the sound of that flute, seeing Krishna and considering he's Satchit Ananda Vigraha, and considering as much as we can everything about the glories of Krishna, then when Krishna plays music, it must be pretty far out. It must be pretty enchanting when Krishna plays his flute. Yeah. Even in this world, in this material world, we're attracted to some type of music, isn't it? Some type of music. There's some music was very enchanting. And of course, we may individually have our likes and dislikes. Yeah. For instance, there's one beautiful, my mother used to play it sometimes. It's called, somebody might have heard it, Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven.
Yes.
You heard of that, yeah.
Mm.
It's beautiful. It has different parts of it, but it's very enchanting. Very
Mm.
enchanting. And there is some really wonderful music produced. But can we imagine the music coming from Krishna? We can't.
We
And
can't.
yeah, and it's not, and because it's Krishna, it is not material sound. It is completely spiritual. So therefore, it has a dramatic effect on the whole of Vrindavan. It has such a dramatic effect. And as you know, it can communicate as well. Krishna's flute playing can send messages to individual gopis. Yeah, can send them. Yeah, of course, it's absolute. Yeah. So again, hearing the sound is another way for them to see Krishna. So I guess we can't see Krishna, but we can through the holy name. Yeah, that's how we're going to see Krishna. It's not as if Krishna's going to, come to our front door, or we're going to meet him on the high street, or he's going to appear in our bedroom. He's going to appear in that sound that we're chanting every day. That's where he's going to make his appearance to us. He's going to appear in the heart. He's going to appear in that pure sound vibration. So if we can chant purely, or we can chant without offense, then Krishna will manifest. Yeah. Not just Krishna, but also Radharani, and also the whole spiritual world will manifest in that holy name. So if we're looking for Krishna, that's where we're going to find him, in our japa, yeah, or in a kirtan, or in congregational chanting of the holy name. That's where we're going to find him. Of course, he's on the altar as well. But the holy name is more merciful than the Krishna. Yeah. So that's where we're going to meet Krishna, through our chanting. So let's continue. Any comments or questions, please feel free. So through the rich new growth on the branches, no, excuse me, though the rich new growth on the branches makes it difficult for the birds to see Krishna, it also attracts Krishna to the trees to pick the fresh leaves, fruits, and flowers. So the birds put aside their normal business of foraging and fly to the highest branches, where the leaves and twigs don't block the line of sight between them and Krishna at all. gone to the top of the trees. Yeah, perched in the treetops, eyes closed in meditation, the birds appear like great sages. Indeed, sages who want to devote themselves to Krishna perch themselves on various branches of the trees of the Vedas. It's it's very poetic, isn't it? Indeed, sages who want to devote themselves to Krishna perch themselves on various branches of the trees of the Vedas, which bear the attractive tender twigs of various methods of spiritual advancement. The sages learn from the Vedas how to realize Krishna, and with enthusiasm they practice the disciplines approved by the Vedas, such as offering to Krishna the results of all work. But even while seriously studying the Vedas and pondering what they mean, these sages become attracted to hearing Krishna's all-attractive flute and become eager to see him. They cease to be attached to their Vedic education and instead become attached to seeing Krishna constantly in their hearts. Yeah. So there's that verse in Bhagavad Gita where Arjuna encourages Krishna, encourages Arjuna to rise above the to rise above the flowery words of the Vedas and just to take to heart his direct instructions. Yeah. And closing, yeah, that they cease to be attached to their Vedic education, instead become attached to seeing Krishna constantly in their hearts. Closing their eyes in great ecstasy, they then dedicate themselves exclusively to his Nam Sankirtan. So this is Krishna's Nam Sankirtan, his flute playing. Or else it may be understood that sages devoted to the personalities of Godhead come to the Vrindavan forest to become birds and listen to the song of his flute. According to the commentary of Srila Sutta Swami, all sages, even if content in their own selves, so this would be Sutta Swami's commentary on this verse of the Bhagavatam, which is being quoted, in the Aveno Gita, 10:21-14. According to the commentary of Sutta Swami, all sages, even if content in their own selves, should become birds in Vrindavan forest. While granting that some sages are disqualified from entrance into Vrindavan because they are less fortunate and confused by Maya, at least most of them should prayaha. They should become birds in Vrindavan, because thus they can easily achieve what they aspire for and much more. So it seems like these are a particular type of gyanis which become, by great fortune, attached to Krishna, but haven't perhaps developed the full sense of servitude to Krishna. But they desire to become birds in Vrindavan. Okay. Because the birds living in the Vrindavan forest have the great fortune to be able to hear Krishna's flute so often, they should be acknowledged to be greater devotees than the bees. Okay, so there's a hierarchy being mentioned here. So these birds are greater than devotees than the bees. And thinking about the birds makes Krishna's girlfriends even more disappointed than before. How terrible this is. We don't have such unalloyed devotion to Krishna. We can't see Krishna or hear his flute when he goes out to the forest. We can't renounce everything and climb the branches of the trees. And when we don't see him, we can simply stop. Let me just read it again. And when we don't see him, we can't simply stop talking and close our eyes like these birds. To hell with us, gopis. They say, fire nas. Normally they use the word fire nas. So that's their ecstasy. In one sense, they've got a good point, isn't it? You know, the birds, they can see Krishna, they can hear Krishna's flute playing, and there's no restrictions, you know. For the cowherd girls, they got all duty, you know, they can't just sit in the house and close their eyes. They've got different duties to perform, you know. But from another perspective, the interaction that Krishna has with the gopis is definitely not available to the birds. Yeah, he's dancing with the gopis at night, etc. That is exclusively for them. Krishna's dancing with them and is embracing them, joking with them, etc. That is their exclusive right. Yeah. Okay. Shall we continue hearing about Vrindavan? Yes. Anyone else like to read text 116? Again, this is from Venu Gita, another verse, chapter 21.
I can read a little bit.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Is it text 116?
Correct.
Blessed.
Yes, blessed are all those foolish deer.
Okay. Blessed are all of these foolish deer, because they have approached Maharaj Nanda, gorgeously dressed son, after hearing him play on his flute. Indeed, both the doe and the bucks worship the Lord with looks of love and affection. Commentary. In this verse, Bhagavatam 10:21-11, another gopi glorifies the deer. The deer, being similar in species to the cows and other creatures tended by the personality of Godhead, are able to accompany them while grazing. Danyasma means the deer are fortunate, or considering the grammatical license granted to saintly authors like Vasudev. Another way to understand Danyasma is we are fortunate. This is possible if we allow Srila Vyas the liberty of leaving off the final letter of the word sma, we are, the way it is sometimes left off in the texts of the Vedas. In other words, we consider it our great fortune that these deer have responded to the flute song of our beloved Sri Nanda Nandana by approaching to worship him with all respect. The worship done by the deer was very simple, being performed with nothing more than loving glances. The deer had no paraphernalia at their disposal for worship, and other than those loving glances, nothing would have satisfied Krishna, as expressed by the prefix for in the word richitam, well
Virachitam.
virachitam, well arranged. The deer's method of worship was exceptionally pleasing to Krishna. The deer saw Krishna decorated with wonderful forest ornaments like flower garlands and with peacock feathers and with gunja berries in his hair. Thus, even though the deer had taken birth as an unintelligent animal, Muda Mati, they were supremely fortunate, or understanding the meaning of Muda Mattaya differently, just by hearing Krishna's flute, the deer lost their power to think clearly, and their eternal and external senses all become stunned. This is the natural influence of Raj. Even living beings possessed of various skills are deprived of them by reverberation. Sorry, my phone is just playing up a bit. Reverberation of Krishna's
Correct. Yeah.
flute and rendered dumb and immobile like inert beings. The doe normally stays hidden deep within the forest, but the sound of Krishna's flute draw them out into the open, where they come near Krishna and, beholding his beauty, were bewildered by Cupid in that condition. They could think of nothing but him. They simply gazed at him in great love, as if worshipping him, and their husbands also reacted the same way to the song of Krishna's flute. The doe and the bucks, those most exalted of animals, were endowed with such deep love for the Supreme Lord that they could never become proud of their good fortune. They always behaved like innocent creatures. As the gopis meditate on the devotional service of the deer, they cannot help but think, these deer are fortunate because they can worship Krishna. along with their husbands. But our foolish husbands cannot tolerate our worship of Krishna. Therefore, despite being born as human beings, fully able to understand and act, we are unfortunate. In fact, we are most unfortunate, even though born in the very virtuous and clever cowherd caste, because we cannot follow Krishna and listen to his flute while he wanders about in his forest dress. We cannot gaze at him with wide open eyes, filled with love, and serve him with pleasing glances. And even if a few of us can occasionally perform such service for him, our husbands object. The word Krishna Sara means the black deer, but the word Sara also means important. So the gopis think the husbands of the deer are called Krishna Saras because only Krishna is important to them. The attitude of our husbands, however, is just the opposite. Actually, the cowherd men are also most fortunate Vaishnavas, exclusively devoted to Krishna. Still, the gopis are subordinates, as wives, feel shy to disclose to their husbands their worship of Krishna. Constrained by the husband and the wife relationship, the gopis have to worship Krishna secretly as a paramour. This unique style of worship enables the gopis to achieve the extreme limit of success, the highest degree of pure love for Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now the gopis, they're seeing the deer as being more fortunate than themselves. So this is, could we conclude that the gopis are madly in love with Krishna?
Totally.
Yes, totally absorbed in Krishna. So everything they see throughout the waking day is just a stimulus to be meant to, yeah, it's the stimulus to, yeah, it's the stimulus of their love for Krishna. So even they're looking at the animals, and because they're restricted, they can't go to be with Krishna, and they have to be. It's all in secret, as mentioned here. It's a secret love, paramour love. But here, the deers, both buck and doe, they can have no problems. They can approach Krishna. Yeah, although they're very timid animals, but they approach Krishna. Actually, there's deer wanders around here where I'm staying in this house. There's deer just walking down the street here. They're a little bit more used to humans here, and I just saw them eating the shrubbery in the gardens.
Ah,
So they're a bit more. They're beautiful animals, actually. If you look at them, they're beautiful
yes.
animals. Very timid. But anyway, Hare Krishna. So they get the opportunity to approach Krishna. Yeah. And yes, yeah, the deer are most fortunate. They can worship Krishna along with their husbands. We are most unfortunate. Fie on us. Fie our existence. Better we be deers. Better we be bees. Better we be birds. Yeah. And that will continue. Let's have a look at 117. Anyone like to read text 117? We're going to hear about now the calves. Yeah. The young calves. Yes, Mother Gayatri, please. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Text 117. Using their upraised ears, right?
Correct,
Ears
yeah,
as
ears.
vessels. The cows are drinking the nectar of the flute song flowing out of Krishna's mouth. The calves, their mouths full of milk from their mother's moist nipples, stand still as they take Govinda within themselves, food their tear-filled eyes, and embrace him within their hearts. Commentary. By far superior to the deer of the Vrindavana forest are the cows personally tended by Sri Gopala Deva. In this verse, Bhagavatam 10:21-13, other gopis glorify Krishna's cows. To the cows, the sound of Krishna's flute was just like Piyusha, the nectar created on the moon. This means that Krishna's face seemed to them like the moon. Anxious not to spill a drop of that nectar, They use their ears like cupped palms to drink it carefully. In other words, they listen to the flute with rapt attention. Despite the cowherd's vigilance, the shavas or calves, some of them newly born, had somehow joined their mothers and were busy drinking their mother's milk. But as soon as the calves heard Krishna's flute, they forgot that what they were doing. They simply kept their mother's milk in their mouths without swallowing it. Or else it may be that the calves were not present and the word shava refers to the cows themselves. The cows were so absorbed in drinking the nectar from Krishna's moon-like face that they became motionless like corpses. Shava. As love for Krishna swelled in the hearts of the cows, milk spontaneously flowed from their udders, and the grass they were eating remained in their mouths because they were unable to chew. The cows were raised to the highest platform of love of God by seeing Krishna with their eyes and embracing him within their hearts. They were so moved that the drops, kala, of tears, ashru, appeared in their eyes. Or, taking kala to mean producing, the cows were shedding profuse tears. Hearing this description, the gopis commented, "Dear friends, if the cows act like this, then we gopis as human beings should be excused for being driven to extremes by the force of prema."
Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna. So the cows, normally the cows, their ears, you can picture it, the ears are like this. They're pointing up. Yeah, they turn their ears up. Yeah, they're hearing the nectar of Krishna's flute. Yeah. Yeah. Any comments here? Very, very fortunate cows. So I didn't realize this before, but there is a progression that's been mentioned. So now the cows are considered to be more fortunate than the deer. Yeah, because they also get to their milk, at least the calves, and yeah, the cows, they get to their milk is used for Krishna's sweets, is used for making butter, etc., for serving Krishna. So they're very fortunate. But there's this phenomena is happening where they're hearing the flute, they're chewing the grass, and they're completely stunned. Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look at 118. Here about when the bulls and deer. Okay, this is a summary now. Let's have a look at the purple, relatively short. Anyone, any readers out there? Did we run out of readers?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I can read.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Mother Sejal.
Text 118.
118, yes.
When Krishna vibrates his flute, Vrajas, bulls, deers, and cows, standing in a group at a great distance, are all captivated by the sound, and they stop chewing the food in their mouths and cock their ears.
Cock their ears. Yeah, that's the sound. They just cock their ears up. Yeah.
Yeah. The Aborigine women of
No, just at the top on the left.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, stunned, they appear as if asleep.
They appear as if asleep or like figures in painting. Commentary. This verse, Bhagavatam 10:35-5, describes the rare good fortune shared by the cows and the bulls and other animals that were with them. Dear friends, please now hear something wonderful. When the bull, deer, and cows hear Krishna's flute, they feel the urge to approach him. They all come from far away and stand nearby him, fully enchanted. They forget about the grass in their mouths, and it either stays there unchewed or else fall from their mouths to the ground, their ears standing upright. Sorry, my battery's low. Just one. Upright. The animals remain still as if asleep, or as if not living beings but painted images. Thus, these animals, bewildered by prema, lose their powers of thought and activity. Or explaining what happens in another way, at first, the cows hear Krishna's flute from a distance as an indistinct murmur, without embellishments or even indiscernible melody, but simply that faint sound is enough to capture their hearts and completely agitate them. After a short time, when the cows, bulls, and deer hear the song of Krishna's flute more clearly, they feel fear that death might intervene and separate them from Krishna. So, to prevent themselves from hearing any more, they lift their front legs and forcibly cover the holes of their ears. When that fails to stop the sound, they come closer to Krishna, holding blades of grass in their mouths as a sign of humble entreaty. And when that also fails to stop Krishna from playing, they all become stunned. The word chitram in this verse is in the singular form because as these animals fell into a stupor, they come together into a densely packed group like figures posed together in a painting.
Okay, thank you. So interesting. Hadn't come across that before. That the ecstasy is so intense that they feel that they think the ecstasies that they're feeling and the effect it's having, they think they might be meeting death. Of course, they're not. They're actually meeting life. So I don't know how they must do it. They must go down on there and they put their to try and cover their ears. Yes. Other than that, they come by Krishna. I was just thinking, and I remember when I was young, there used to be this it used to enchant me. It used to be the story of the Pied Piper. You heard of the Pied Piper? Yeah, it's an enchanting story. Not enchanting is the right word, but a mystical story. I can't remember the details of it, but basically this mystical person comes and he threatens the villagers or something. And does anyone know the basic story? But what he
Is
does is
he the one that attracts all the mice? No?
yeah, also the children, isn't it?
And the children, yes.
Yeah, he
I
plays the
think he was
flute.
Because he
hired
plays
to
the
take the
flute. He
mice
plays the
away.
flute.
Sorry, go on.
I think he was hired to take the mice away,
Mice
and
away,
they
yeah.
didn't pay, so he tried to take the children.
Okay, that was it. Yeah, so he's hired to get rid of the mice, and the villagers didn't come up with his payments, so he took all the children away with the sound of his flute.
Yes.
So interesting. I'm sure there's some connection there in folklore. Sure, coming down over the ages, this about the flute. I mean, the flute song itself. Yeah, the flute, the enchanting flute. Here we're hearing the origins of it. It's actually coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Yeah. And even I've seen in a modern context, I've seen sometimes where someone plays sing that, where someone plays music, some nice music, and it attracts the animals. Sometimes you
Snakes.
see someone playing some music and it attracts the cows, and they come and they're listening and they're enchanted. Yeah. But here we're hearing about Krishna who's playing his flute and it's enchanting everyone in Vrindavan. I wonder what. Just thinking what the effect of the flute when who's it Kotila? What's the name? Kotila, the ones who are always trying to stop Radha and Krishna meeting.
Oh,
Uh,
Kutila.
you know the names.
Jatila
Jatila
and
and Kuta.
I wonder what they must experience when they hear the flute. Perhaps they don't hear it, or perhaps they might get all concerned and worried, and they put all these strictures on Radharani and they condemn her to the house, when they hear the flute play. But anyway, the flute playing, it seems it has its effect on everyone in Vrindavan, in different levels of intensity. This is what we're hearing. So the cows, all the cows, you mentioned the cows or calves. It could be this verse could indicate cows or could intimate calves as well. Yeah. Not the
And
scared the
such,
cows and the bulls as well. Yeah, sorry.
I was just thinking, it's such a humble instrument, just a wooden piece of wood, and yet it can produce such beautiful sound. And Krishna obviously is known for playing the flute. So I was just thinking
Yeah,
that the flute is such a humble instrument because it's just a piece of wood with
yeah.
holes.
And sometimes the gopis, they have this complaint about this little piece of wood that's completely destroying their chastity, completely destroying their lives. And sometimes in their ecstasy, they see and they sometimes they chide Krishna, why are you so attached to this little piece of wood? Let's like use it for like making chapatis. Let's just put it in the fire so we can make chapatis. And then us housewives, we can get some peace. Forget with these little this flutes causing so much disturbance. And there's so many pastimes as well, isn't it, where the gopis steal the flute, and then Krishna's trying to get the flute back. Sometimes really, yeah. So, and sometimes the flute itself plays without Krishna's playing into it. It has a existence of its own. And there was one time where Krishna and Balaram were dancing, and I was playing the flute, and all the cowherd boys, they're all watching Krishna dance, or they watch Balaram dance. Then they watch Krishna dance, and also I think Radharani, they're dancing and they're doing wonderful movements in their dance, and then the flute itself becomes enchanted by Krishna's dancing and starts playing of its own accord. And Krishna becomes completely enchanted, and he plays to the music of the flute. That's also there, I think you probably find it in Venu Gita, wonderful description. So sometimes the flute, of course, it's and if I remember now, Venu Gita, where sometimes the gopis, they're sometimes, they come up with, there's like one discussion they have where they consider the flute is completely irreligious because the flute is considered to be male gender, and it's stealing the nectar of Krishna's lips. And this is completely irreligious. So the gopis, they get all concerned that there's irreligious act going on, and they start to think of what they can do to the flute. Yeah, I think they also speak in terms of the flute is stealing the nectar of Krishna's lips, which is meant for us. And they go into a whole discussion, speaking in this way. This goes on from, I think this comes up in Venu Gita, this like discussion. They're discussing the effect of the flute. And eventually there's one part where they conclude, get the flute, burn it, bury it, throw it in the river, but somehow or another, we've got to get rid of this flute. It's stealing the nectar for which is meant for us. Okay, this is madness of love. So intense love they have for Krishna.
Did your
Anyway,
Guru
go on.
write? I was just thinking, did he Venu Gita from using this?
Yeah, he would have, Brhat Bhagavatamrta, Sanatana Goswami.
It's exactly
Yeah.
following the same pattern.
Yeah, he would have, he did. He was studying the books of the Acharyas and their commentaries on this chapter. So he would have definitely taken some, for sure. Yeah, so now we're going to the source. Yeah. All right, now I've got a Pujari meeting I have to tune into now for our Londoners. We're running a Pujari course for devotees in London, and we're doing online classes first before we get there. So I've got to jump in that class now. Okay. So thank you everyone for this wonderful reading. I hope you dream of Krishna tonight after hearing this wonderful discussion. And, Hare
We hope
Krishna.
you can hear the flute.
Yes,
Yeah.
hear the flutes.
We should hear the flute. I mean, as I said before, I don't know how many times I've put the flute on Krishna, but I've never heard it yet. It's just not fair.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I better
There's a
stop here.
big
Thank you, everyone.
frequency.
I
Hare
think
Krishna.
tomorrow, those who tune in to Sudha Bhakti Chitamani should be right. We're on course for that. Okay, at 6 o'clock, please join us if you're so inspired. Hari Hari.
Hare
Gaura
Krishna.
Gaura Premanande.